Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Tonight, we've got a quick hit video, a late night insight on an Amouage. I usually don't do these late night quick hit videos on Amouages because many Amouages I have full bottles of, as you can see, and I plan on doing full reviews on. And for those of you who have been following my channel for a long time, you know that it's one of my favorite brands. It's probably one of the main brands that I can credit with me being here today and talking with you. It really made me fall in love with the art of perfumery and realize that it can be so much more than just, an accessory that you spray on to accent your wardrobe. It can be an art form in and of itself. And so today we're going to talk about a fragrance from the woman's side of Amouage. Now, I have to be upfront and straightforward with you. When I first started collecting fragrances a decade ago, I was always focused on the masculine side. It's only the last 3 years or so where I opened up enough to start collecting women's fragrances and start being, brave enough and bold enough to, openly say that there's nothing wrong with a woman's fragrance. But before that, I was very closed-minded. I only went for the masculines. I wouldn't even give the women's fragrances a chance, And once I kind of got deeper and deeper into this hobby, I realized that, wait a minute, just because they're marketing it towards women doesn't necessarily make it a woman's fragrance. There could be some traditionally feminine notes out there. But many of this gender marketing stuff is just that. It's marketing. I think anyone can wear anything. Roja Dove is very famous for saying that a flower neither has a penis or a vagina. He's on record saying that, and that's one of the greatest quotes of all time, by the way, for a perfumer. But it's something that's kind of new to me. So when you look at the Amouage collection that I have, you'll notice they're mostly the masculine ones. And the reason is that I didn't start collecting many of the feminine fragrances until recently. Like I said, the last 3 years or so, maybe 4, but most definitely 3. And you'll notice that I only have a couple feminine Amouages. I have Jubilation for women, which is amazing, by the way. I have Fate Woman, which is equally amazing. I love Fate, and this is one of the few non-magnetic cap Amouages that I have, and it is so good. I'm so lucky to have this bottle. And so many of the women's fragrances escaped me. Even to this day, I haven't smelled most of the women's fragrances. I've never smelled Portrayal Woman. I've never smelled Reflection Woman. I've never smelled Dia Woman. I've never smelled, what else have I never smelled? Interlude Woman. I've never smelled Interlude Woman. I've never smelled Memoir Woman. There's so many women's fragrance side of things that I just am still ignorant to, even to this day. But we're going to knock one off of that list today because of one of you. A very kind perfume god person sent me this. And this is Amouage Imitation Woman. Now, Imitation Woman it opens up with, when you first spray, it almost smelled to me like you're smelling this forbidden fruit smell, like you're in the Garden of Eden and you're smelling this forbidden fruit. And then it switched, and all of a sudden it was a huge floral fragrance. And the florals are rose, ylang, orange blossom, and jasmine, okay? And they're huge, okay? Gigantic. If you miss the way that fragrance houses used to do perfume back in the day, like this, if you miss the 80s where they did big, bold fragrances, take something like Poison by Christian Dior. This fragrance is gigantic. This fragrance is one of the biggest fragrances I've ever smelled. It can be a very polarizing scent because of that. But I love this fragrance, even though I struggle to wear this, and I wear whatever I want, whenever I want nowadays. I've given up seasons. I've given up, proper timing to wear things. I wear whatever the hell I want now. But if you miss the way that, women's targeted fragrances were done back in the day, this is a must. And I'm going to repeat, a must sniff for you. Okay? I'm not telling you to go run out and buy it, but it's a must sniff. And I'll tell you why in just a second. You know, if you like fragrances like Explosive, Paloma Picasso, Poison from the 80s, this is a must sniff, okay? And you know, this could easily be like a signature scent for someone like you, a niche signature scent if that's kind of your style. And, you know, while I was wearing this, I was thinking about something, and I don't know how this is going to come across, but I feel like I should probably say it because I jotted down my thoughts while I was kind of wearing this, and I've only had it on my skin for a couple hours. So keep that in mind. These early impressions are just that. They are literally early impressions. My thoughts can easily change tomorrow, but this is kind of what I'm thinking right now. So, you know, sometimes it feels like the universe lines things up in a particular way. And I know I don't talk very much about myself, but I do believe in a God, okay? I do believe that there is a God, but I don't necessarily believe that the religions of the world have it right, okay? So I don't believe in the modern religions of the world, but I do think there's a God. I'm not necessarily an atheist, okay? If that makes sense. I do believe that there is a force in the universe that men call God. And sometimes it feels like you're put in this situation, or you're pulled in, you're attracted to something, right? Naturally attracted to something for whatever reason. Call it fate, karma, whatever it is. You know, there's like a magnetic force in the universe that pulls you towards things. And I was thinking while I was wearing this, maybe that's the case with me. Maybe that's why I'm here doing YouTube reviews for fragrances. Who would have ever thought, right? And the reason I mention this is, again, this is kind of the thought process that was going through my brain while I was wearing the scent. And I started thinking about the word imitation. You know, I started thinking about how bold it is to name a fragrance imitation. All these fragrance houses are saying every time they put out a fragrance, we're unique, we're different, we're special. And then you smell them and they're not. They smell like a million other things. This is a fragrance called Imitation that actually does smell unique and different. And the reason that I kind of went through that thought process with you guys, that while my brain was kind of processing the scent, while I was just subconsciously kind of thinking about all these random thoughts, is that, you know, I started thinking like, am I a YouTube reviewer for a reason? Is there, you know, the reason I'm telling you all this is that, for me, fragrance is an art. It's an art form. It's a form of art. And it's meant to make you feel. It's meant to make you think. Or it's meant to make you feel truth, or someone else's truth, or whatever you want to call it, right? And no matter what I say about this fragrance from here on out, the smell, okay? What I will say is that you have to tip your hat to Christopher Chong and Amouage, because he was the creative director, of course, in 2018 when Imitation Woman came out. This is one of the reasons why I kind of give Christopher Chong era Amouage such high praise and high marks and all of this stuff. And I do think that the biggest blunder Amouage ever made was letting him walk, because, you know, when you're spending $300+ on a niche fragrance, you want something that's going to be artistic. You want something that's going to make you think. This fragrance, just in the name and the smell, kind of brought me to this place where I started thinking about, you know, your place in the universe and fate. And there's another fragrance that they have I just showed called Fate Woman. But, you know, it kind of got the gears turning, right? And whatever the outcome, whether I decide to buy a bottle of this or not, this is a success. For me, this is a success. This is what fragrance is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be something that touches you. It's supposed to be something that moves you. It's supposed to be something that makes you think differently or feel differently. And this did that for me. I mean, this, you know, just in these last couple hours, I was sitting here just kind of, you know, lost in thought, smelling this, thinking about things, and not it's not every fragrance that can get you to do something like that. And again, that's why I love Amouage fragrances. They really truly are art in a bottle. This is only 2018. I mean, this seems like forever ago, but actually it's not that long ago, 2018. So here is what I think about this little scent. And by the way, for those of you that don't know, I do own Imitation Man. Look at the dent I put in that bottle, by the way. That's my dent. That is not a dent. I did not buy a partial. I bought this brand new when it first came out. Blind, by the way. I blind bought this. And thank God I did. And I love this scent. For whatever reason, this is one of those scents that, it's one of those fragrances that, you know, even though I wouldn't rank it as my favorite, I wouldn't rank it as my favorite Amouage fragrance necessarily. What I would say is, I reach for this just instinctively. You know, it's like, it's a dumb reach for me. Like when I don't know what else to wear, I'll just reach for this and wear it sometimes. And very few perfumes are like that. There's very, very few perfumes in my collection that work out this way. This is one of them. I just wore it probably within the last month, where it was like, what am I going to wear? Imitation Man. It's easy. It's an easy dumb reach for me. Even though it's not an easy wear, okay? I'm not saying it's an easy wear. I'm saying it's an easy dumb reach for me. So the story behind Imitation Man, for those of you that don't know, is this is supposed to be kind of a, this is supposed to be a artistic representation or rendering of his time, of Christopher Chong's time growing up in the 1970s, okay? And you can almost look at that neon light right there down below, this neon outline of the bottle down below, and look at the color scheme. And Imitation Man I feel like between the trio of the two scents, that Imitation Man was the starting point for the idea, because it's the one that is supposed to be his representation of his childhood. And who made Imitation Man? I can't even remember. Did they ever say who it was? Let's see. Imitation Man. Whoops, that's woman. Let's try this again. Imitation Man. There we go. Fragrantica says Leslie Gerard. Okay, I can't say I'm familiar with much of her work. Let's see what else she's done. She did very little. First Breath from 2018, never smelled it. Papyrus Moleculaire, never smelled it. Part-Time Hero, never smelled it. Mimosa and Heliotrope Poudre, never smelled it. Gingembre and Vetiver Sensual, I haven't smelled any of. She has 6 perfumes in her database, one of which I think is a little bit of a masterpiece. Very interesting. So Imitation Man has this very distinct vinyl note, okay? It's this vinyl record. Imagine vinyl records playing in the 1970s, okay? And that's kind of what you get with Imitation Man. It also has this earthy, irisy leather with this very interesting representation of castoreum. And whenever I smelled Eugene's La Dolea Exquise for the first time, which I think is the release of 2022, I think it's the perfume of the year, it instantly reminded me of Imitation Man. Most people said it reminded them of Portrait of a Lady. Not me. I said it reminded me of Imitation Man because of that rose patchouli and castoreum combination, which are in both fragrances. But it's this vinyl-like note that I get from Imitation Man. Even though vinyl is not listed in the notes, I get a definite vinyl accord, okay? And so I'm thinking Christopher Chong and Amouage making this set, and the vinyl, you know, gives them the 1970s kind of mindset of his childhood in New York City in the 70s. I can almost see it. And I'm also thinking, what are they going to do for the woman's version, right? Well, I'll tell you what they did with the woman's version. By the way, the perfumer of the woman's version is much more well-known. It's Pierre Negrin. He of great fame. Just think of the Blue Beast. That's Pierre Negrin. So you know that he is not shy. He is definitely not a shy perfumer. He isn't shy about his compositions being big and bold and different and daring. And I love Pierre Negrin for that. He did a lot of my favorite Amouages. And I would love for him to come back and do more Amouages, but it feels like the new creative director kind of like kicked him out and wanted to go a different route. So there's this powerful, bold uniqueness to the perfume, to Imitation Woman. There absolutely is, 100%. And what you end up getting, and by the way, I should mention that this fragrance has all the true makings of an Amouage. Many times you've heard me say on some of the new fragrances, it doesn't smell like an Amouage. Meander, all these other fragrances that they've put out since Christopher Chong has left, it doesn't smell like an Amouage, okay? They may be nice fragrances, okay, but they're not Amouages in my opinion. And some people took, you know, to be fair, some people brought up a good point. They said, well, Christopher Chong, in and of himself, when he came in and started doing stuff like Jubilation 25 and Epic and all this stuff, was different from the route that Amouage was going before. And that's completely fair enough. But for me, there is still that Amouage DNA, okay? That even if you go back to the time before Christopher Chong and you look like something like Diamant, or, you know, you look at something like Silver, it had that Amouage DNA, okay? And I felt like Christopher Chong continued that. He carried it on. Although he had his own signature, something like Boundless to me is not an Amouage, okay? And that was a big turning point for me because I blind bought that in 2021. I think at the beginning of 2021. Feels like longer than just a year ago. And that's not an Amouage to me. It's not. Is it a nice fragrance? Yes. Is it worth $300? Absolutely not. Is it worth the title of being called an Amouage? No. The reason I bring that up is that this is an Amouage. It absolutely is through and through. It has all of the makings that, for me to say, yes, it's an Amouage. It's bold. It's unique. It is different. I've never smelled anything like this. The ingredients are extremely high quality, and it has that beautiful Amouage frankincense in the base. And I'm starting to get more and more of it now that I'm at about 2 hours and 15 minutes in. I'm starting to get more and more of that frankincense. So how does the scent smell? Okay. So I mentioned when you first spray, you get this forbidden fruit-like note. And you know what it starts to smell like to me? So the florals are pretty obvious. You know, everyone knows what rose. Everyone knows what, you know, what did I say? The ylang. Everyone knows rose, ylang, orange blossom, and jasmine. 4 very common florals that open up. But it starts out big and bold, like an 80s scent. Again, think of Poison, okay? Think of Dior's Poison. There is this big, bold brashness to this perfume that I absolutely love, okay? It's in your face. It doesn't, it's you know, it's Rage Against the Machine screaming, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. It is that. It is, it's that mindset, okay? And then what comes to the forefront is this blackcurrant bud note, which is a very unique note, I must say. I've smelled a lot of black currants, okay? I don't think I can think of very many blackcurrant bud notes that are popular in perfume. Blackcurrant bud is in not very many fragrances that I have. I actually have a sample from a Prin fragrance called Rahasani that I'll review or do an early impression on very soon that has that blackcurrant bud note. But usually it's blackcurrant that you see, not blackcurrant bud. And so what it smells like to me is it smells like you're smelling a mixture of jelly and fruit preserves, okay? So imagine you're mixing jelly with fruit preserves. And actually, jelly is kind of a good word for the consistency of the fruit that you're smelling. The dry down It feels like more of that classic Amouage, beautiful frankincense and sandalwood come out. But what's shocking about this fragrance is normally aldehydes feel like they're starting in the top. Here, the aldehydes feel like they kick in much later. Okay, so you get this, instead of an aldehydic floral opening, you get this 80s floral dense opening, but then it expands. It almost feels like, you know how I used the word jelly earlier? Imagine you're inside of that jelly, and you are inside of the jelly, and while you're inside of that jelly, it's airy. You can like swim around the jelly. Okay, you can move around. Can't leave the jelly bubble, but you can kind of move around inside of the jelly. It's got this airiness to it. This it's light while being gelatinous at the same time, if that makes sense. There's a denseness and a lightness to the fragrance, which is dichotomy. That's what you want. You want contrast in a perfume. You want, you know, all the best perfumes have contrast. Think of Koros with that cleanliness and that dirty pissiness combined. So you can see I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of this scent. I'll tell you right now that this is a full bottle worthy fragrance for me, 100%. I'm going to go for a full bottle of this. I'm just worried about reformulation with modern Amouages. And I made the mistake of buying a modern version of an Amouage. I don't think I'll do it again. I think I'll always go for the older one. I bought Silver Oud in the new packaging. And granted, air just may need to get into the bottle. It may be nothing. But the sample I got from the old 50 ml bottle seemed much more there, you know. I doubt they would reformulate something after a year, but you never know. You never know nowadays. And, you know, I mentioned fate, and I mentioned kind of being put in particular positions in life earlier. And I just so happened to have like the string of reviewing these fragrances that have this licorice note, and good ones too, good licorice notes. If you go back about a week, on my channel, the last, you know, few videos, let's say, you'll find a review for a Parfums Cortana fragrance called Bloodflower. And Bloodflower had one of the strongest in-your-face licorice notes I've ever smelled. Licorice is normally kind of a note that's in the background. It's not normally right there in your face. Licorice is used in stuff like Eau Noir, okay, by Dior, which is probably one of Francis Kirkjohn's best works, but I think that Amouage Sunshine Man does that DNA better, okay? And they both have Immortelle. They both have this lavender, and so I much prefer Sunshine Man. Kenzo Jungle for women has a beautiful licorice note. That Bloodflower I mentioned has a licorice note. Joe de Pau has a licorice note, which I've never smelled. I'd love to. I want to smell all those old Serge Lutens. And this. And actually, Sauvage Elixir has a licorice note, interestingly enough. So I've been all of a sudden smelling all these licorice fragrances. And if you imagine this, you know, airy, gelatinous, bubbly, aldehydic, fruity jelly preserve, right? Mixing with this dense, thick licorice that you can't get into, okay? If I shrunk you down like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and you could get into the jelly and swim around, you can't get into this licorice. It's dense, it's thick, it's chewy, it's you know, it's solid. God, it's very good. This is awesome stuff. And you know, this goes back to me being such an asshole and not giving the women's fragrances a chance, because all I had to do was smell it. If I would have smelled this, I would have known long ago this is full bottle worthy. But there's so many, we are just overloaded with fragrance. I could seriously talk about a new fragrance every single day and not even make a dent in the amount of perfume they're putting out nowadays. It is just, it's a numbers game for these houses now. They are just pumping them out, and trying to separate the wheat from the chaff almost seems like a losing proposition, because every 1,000 fragrances, you get one amazing fragrance. Now, back in the old days, you got one out of every 100 or 50 or whatever it was. You know, there wasn't the amount of releases. Now, they're releasing a million things, but they all smell the same. Whereas in the old days, everything smelled different. They took their time. You know, fragrances from different houses had their own signature. And sometimes they took a decade between perfume, you know, between, like, let's say one mainstay masculine release to another. I think Chanel famously took like 27 years between Pour Monsieur and Antaeus, just like unbelievable amounts of time. And now they're releasing 3, 4, 5 fragrances a year, and they all smell the same because they're all using the same oil house's molecules. And so trying to find these little, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen someone that tests fragrances like for a living. I saw this show once off of the BBC, and it was about fragrances, and it was from about 12 years ago or something, 13 years ago. It interviewed a very young Thierry Vassa. It interviewed Roger Dove before he had a brand, like when he was just up on the 5th floor of Harrods, just in his store. But it interviewed this guy who tested fragrances. You know what he did? He would spray, like, it wouldn't just be here or here or here. He would, like, take his leg and, like, spray parts of his leg so he could smell it on his skin. You know, like, because there was just so much stuff coming to him, and he didn't want to test it on paper. He wanted to test it on skin. He would literally spray his, like, ankle and sniff it. You know, so because he was out of room on his arms, you know, and that's how much crap they're putting out nowadays. And, but I bring this up because this is a winner. This is 100% a winner. Imitation Woman. I'm sorry I never gave you the chance. I'm sorry I doubted you, but thank you to the person that sent me this because I will be hunting down a bottle of this. It is full bottle worthy. That licorice, that jelly-like preserve, blackcurrant bud, that aldehydic frankincense, sandalwood with this patchouli dry down. It's a stunner, man. For me, this is a stunner. Completely unisex. Yes, it has that floral opening, this dense floral opening, but it changes very quickly, and you will see the beauty of this fragrance. I'm shocked on Parfumo. 94% of the people that own this are women. I am shocked that it's not more like, you know, 60-40. But hey, good for me. It's I like smelling like no other. I like the fact that if I go out smelling like this, I know no other man, probably in the state of Texas, is going to be smelling like this, right? So that's a win for me. So I know these videos are usually, these quick hit videos are usually condensed, and I've been talking for almost half an hour, but I would love, this one kind of got me excited. So I would love your thoughts. If you've smelled Imitation Woman, do let me know what you think. If you have any experience, just leave a comment below. Leave a comment anyways. I love seeing your faces. Thank you to everyone. By the way, the official 1-year anniversary date, we figured it out, is December 14th. So on my video yesterday, I said my 1-year anniversary was somewhere between December 7th and December 14th. Well, we figured it out. It actually was December 14th, so I was right. I just didn't know exactly the day. But someone figured it out. It is in the description of the video, apparently. So we still have a couple days till officially 1 year, but I put the video out a couple days early, but that's okay. So thanks for everyone for the support over the first year. Thank you for watching. I can't wait to see what the next year brings. Thank you to everyone who sent me stuff like this. Like, there's no way I would be able to discover all of these amazing fragrances without you. So appreciate everybody who has been a friend of the channel, and I'll see you again tomorrow with another video. Cheers, guys. Bye now.